Christmas used to be my favorite time of year. Not because of the lights, or the music, or the ridiculous sweaters people pretend to enjoy wearing, but because, for a few weeks every December, everyone tries to be better, kinder, more patient, more forgiving, or at least, they pretend well enough that a 6-year-old believes it. Johnny had been asking the same question since we parked the car. When is Santa coming? He'll be here soon, I told him, for the 4th time. He just has to make sure the owls have everything ready. He can't take any chances, but we've been waiting forever, Johnny said, swinging his legs as we stood in line inside the mall. I glanced at my phone. 40 minutes, not even an hour. Forever means something different when you're 6 years old. Around us, the mall buzzed with forced cheer, artificial snow-dusted plastic pine trees. Speakers pumped out old Christmas songs that sounded worn thin from decades of repetition. Parents clutched coffee cups like lifelines while children bounced in place, vibrating with anticipation. Johnny craned his neck. Look, there he is now. From behind a red velvet curtain, Santa emerged. He looked perfect, too perfect. The suit was spotless, the beard impossibly white. His laugh boomed just a little louder than necessary, echoing off tile floors. Beside him walked his helper, a young woman in a green elf outfit circling the area and clapping her hands for attention. "All right, everyone," she announced brightly. "Remember, Santa only visits children who are well behaved. No screaming, no kicking, or you'll end up on the naughty list." The children instantly went silent, and Santa has a very limited amount of time, she continued. He has to get back to the North Pole to make sure all the toys are ready. So let's make this quick and magical. She flashed a smile toward Santa. It lingered a second too long. I felt something tighten in my chest, though I couldn't yet name it. The line began to move. One by one, children climbed onto Santa's lap, whispered their wishes, posed for photos, and ran back to their parents clutching candy canes and dreams. Johnny squeezed my hand. "Do you think he'll like me?" "I'm sure he will," I said, smiling the way mothers learn to smile when they don't want their children asking follow-up questions. Eventually, it was Johnny's turn. I crouched down and straightened his jacket. "Go on. Be polite." He nodded solemnly and marched forward, climbing onto Santa's lap like he'd rehearsed it in his head 1,000 times. "Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas," Santa boomed. "Hi," Johnny said. "Are you the real Santa?" Santa laughed. "Of course I am. Do you think just anyone has a sleigh like mine?" He pointed toward the display outside, a glittering red sleigh surrounded by fake snow and glowing lights. Johnny considered this carefully. "I guess not. And what can I do for you this fine Christmas?" Santa asked. "I'd like a Nintendo Switch, ho ho ho, and a new bike. The elves love making those." Johnny hesitated, but mostly he said quietly. Santa leaned in. "Yes." Johnny glanced back at me. I didn't realize until then that he'd been watching me more closely than I'd ever noticed. "Can you make my mom happy again?" he asked. "I can tell something's wrong. She tries to hide it, but she never really smiles anymore." The mall noise seemed to dim. Santa froze, just for a moment, but I saw it. His hands tightened slightly on the arms of the chair. His smile strained, like a mask slipping. "I'll see what I can do," Santa said slowly. "Now go on back to your mother, my reindeer, and I may be visiting you very soon." "Ho ho ho," Johnny beamed. "Thanks, Santa." He jumped down and ran back to me, breathless with excitement. "Mom," Santa said he'd give me what I wanted. I pulled him into a hug. "I'm sure he did, sweetheart." Santa's very good at giving people what they want. Sometimes, I thought. Too good. We stayed at the mall a little longer. Johnny rode the little train that circled the food court while I watched from a bench, pretending not to notice Santa's helper slipping behind the curtain with him, laughing softly, touching his arm. Later, we had dinner at a restaurant across the street. Johnny chattered non-stop about reindeer names and toy factories, while I stirred my food, barely tasting it. That's when the lights exploded. A thunderous boom echoed through the night. The windows rattled, people screamed. A bloom of fire rose in the distance, painting the sky orange and red. "Mom," Johnny gasped. "What was that?" I turned to him, forcing calm into my voice. "Probably fireworks," I said. He didn't need to know the truth. He didn't need to know that his father was the mall Santa, or that the helper had been more than an employee, or how his father had smiled at me across the dinner table weeks earlier, promising everything would be fair while quietly trying to take my son from me in court, or how earlier that evening, while Johnny rode the train, I had placed explosives inside the sleigh Santa, and his helper would be leaving in. Johnny stared at me. "Mom," he said softly. "You're smiling." I touched my face. I was. "Of course I am, honey," I said, pulling him close. "It's a Christmas miracle."